Hi friends, it's Lisa and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to create some really cool cards using some new products from Crafter's Companion and Pink Fresh Studios. I think those are the two main ones. The first that I used was this layering stamp from Crafter's Companion. And this is how it stamps out. It's really cool. Floral Teacups is the name of it. So I wanted to specifically say, if you have had a Crafter's Companion stamp in the past and you felt like their stamp quality wasn't super high, I have found with these stamps specifically, or perhaps it's been in the last month maybe, the new stamps they're coming out with are really high quality stamps. They are a lot better than the older Crafter's Companion stamps. I think they might have changed manufacturers, which is really cool because the stamping result is a lot better now. You could see right there, it didn't stamp super great the first time, but that's because my tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink pad needs to be refilled, and it's not a problem with the stamp. These stamps are layering stamps, so you have to layer everything up right. The thing that is cool about these stamps is that they have like a corner that you're supposed to just align that up and everything else will stamp perfectly. I found that it gets you in the ballpark of right, but it doesn't get it perfect. So you'll see here I'll stamp this down and it's going to be off a little bit, and that's okay. For some layering stamps it wouldn't be a problem. Here you can definitely tell. So I took that off. I lined it up by just putting the stamp down after I'd cleaned it and aligning it that way. Then I had no problem at all. So just to be aware of that, just you do have to finagle it a little bit. So, but as soon as you do that, everything works out perfect. It aligns great. Perfect spacing for everything was really nice. Then I'm going to stamp again the next layer, which is these green leaves. I really liked the amount of layers that this stamp came with. There is a lot of dimension that is built. The one thing I do wish is that there was another layer on the cups themselves, kind of a shadow layer. But you'll see here in a minute, I actually just paint that on myself because I felt like that, that there should be one more layer to give it just a little bit more dimension. And you can definitely do that yourself as well. So the final layer, I used this Midas ink pad in bronze. And so the Midas ink pads are metallic ink pads. Now, metallic pink ink pads in general, I have always had a lot of trouble with. So I stamped this 3 or 4 times and still just got an okay result. I think if you really wanted a metallic result, what you should do is stamp it in Versamark and then emboss it with a metallic ink pad. But I was happy enough with the results to just move on. So here you'll see I'll stamp it a couple more times. I stamped out a bunch of these all at once. I only ended up making a couple cards, but I still have some that I can use in the future when I need to create a card, but I don't feel like creating a whole card or stamping a ton of stuff out. It's great to have backups. One of the papers that I stamped onto was watercolor paper, and especially the blue ink pad that I need to refill didn't stamp perfectly. over the textured watercolor paper. So I'm going through and with water, and in a minute I'll bring in some additional tumbled glass distress oxide ink on my watercolor brush and just add that in so that I smooth it out. Before I was showing you at real time, but I wanted to speed it up because who wants to sit here watching that all day? You can see it goes much faster, and this is about the point that I brought in the additional ink. It's easy to follow those lines. You just need a thin brush and a little bit of patience. You don't have to be a super watercolor artist to do this. Next, I brought in some Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink. I just smushed it on my glass media mat and picked it up with my lightly wet watercolor brush. I just added in where I thought some reflections and deeper colors would be. If you're not sure, just go ahead and open a picture up about stacked teacups, and you'll see where some reflections will be if you want to add another layer like I did. Then I'm just going to cut out some vellum. I'm not actually going to use this vellum on my card. I'm just going to use it to place the die cut over the teacups. So I'm going to die cut out the teacup die from the vellum, and then I'm going to line that up over top of the teacups I stamped so that then I can place the die over and it'll just click into place. I will use a little bit of tape to make sure it doesn't shift. I found that using the positive, so doing the opposite of what I did here, actually was easier to line up, but you can do it either way. Go ahead and try it, and whatever works for you, works for you. And I don't think that you have to have this specific stamp to create a really cool card like I'm doing. You just need a kind of statement stamp or statement piece on your card, and you can make some really cool cards like I'm making. But I did really like this stamp set in particular because it's so cute and adorable, which is for me really cool. I then grabbed some Gina K paper, and off the top of my head I want to say this is like Cloudy Sky or something like that. I'd have to go downstairs and look to give you the exact name, but it's something like that, and it's definitely Gina K paper, which I really liked her paper. It took me a while to decide what paper to go with, but I have gotten hers and I've really liked them. Next, I picked out some die cut sentiments because I went crazy a couple months ago and was like, I need die cut sentiments. I have none. I had them before my house fire, and then after my house fire, I really just haven't bought any. And I really wanted some so that I could use them on my cards, and I have been using them quite a bit. I have a really cool video all about sentiment organization coming up here in a week or two. So if you have trouble with sentiments and never knowing what sentiments you have, only ever using the sentiments that are on the stamp set that you're using right then don't worry, I have a solution. There is hope for you. Next, I put the pieces of paper that I was going to use, or die cut, through my Xyron Create a Sticker machine. I typically, almost always, do this before I die cut. And you might think that's a little strange because every Xyron thing I've ever seen. They do it after. They die cut their stuff out and then they do it after. I get little boogery things around the edges of mine. Like the adhesive sometimes doesn't pull off where it should pull off. But if I put it on first and then die cut, I don't have that issue. There is a slight issue where you have to get the backing off, which can sometimes be a little bit of a pain, but it's much less of a pain than the boogers. So next I'm die cutting out this really cool frame background die. I really love the insides and the outside wire frame of this. There's just so much you can do with both the cutouts and the wire frame. For example, the cutouts, you could stamp your sentiment on that and use it on your cards, or create backgrounds, or cut that whole thing out of fun foam and use it as stamps. Just so many cool ideas. I'm definitely going to be using that in the future. It is from Pink Fresh Studios, as some of these sentiment die cuts will be as well. These ones that I'm doing specifically right here are from Honeybee Stamps, I believe. And I really like that they include both the word outline and the shadow die for a lot of their word dies anymore. I think some of their older ones they don't, but definitely the new ones they do, which I'm so happy that stamp companies are doing that now. So I'm just adding these onto the shadow die, which I think ends up not mattering in this case, but just in case you want to see how it looks, I do really like that light blue on top of the vellum. I definitely think that's a really cool look. Just in this case, I end up putting it straight on white paper, so it doesn't really matter. But in the future, I definitely will use this combination again because it was just so pretty. I loved how fresh and airy these cards came out. They just looked really cool. So, easy peasy, pressing it down. I do end up running both of these through my die cut machine, my Gemini from Crafter's Companion, and I use it on my bottom plate in between the plastic shim and my bottom plate, because I keep my bottom plate not cut into. When I need to get a new top plate, I'll use my bottom plate and get a new bottom plate. But this allows me to not have any of those little bumps or ridges, really smooth things out. So, I'm trying to figure out here how I'm going to lay this card out. I do this a lot, where I don't take the backing off because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And I line things up and order it and stuff like that. So here is some Pearl Luster Gilding Polish. You've probably seen it in quite a few of my recent videos. I really enjoy this. I only have two colors. I have this one, which is just the pearl color, and I have the Enchanted Gold, which is similar, except for instead of looking cool, it looks warm. So I don't honestly think you need a whole lot of other colors, because all you have to do is dye the background color or pick a colored cardstock and put either one of those over top, and you'll get a pearlized color of that background color because it's translucent. But typically I just use it on white paper because I just really like that pearl color. So here I decided to go ahead and put the sentiment on the inside. I did feel like I needed some zhuzh on the front that I just wasn't getting. So I grabbed some of this tonic matte mirror paper, and I forget what color it is, but it's not the gold, it's like the old gold or something like that color, and I really like that color a lot. It really matched well with the bronze Midas ink pad. So here I'm adding the Just Because sentiment in the same blue cardstock and vellum shadow. It's really easy. I do put that one through the Gemini as well. I don't think I show you that, but it really presses them together and you don't feel like it's going to fall off. Next, I'm cutting out some fun foam, and this is some fun foam that has adhesive on both sides. You can easily just use some wet glue with some regular fun foam if you don't have adhesive backed fun foam. But it's really easy, you just cut it. I decided that I needed a little bit of dimension here, so I put those cups up. This is really where I made the mistake. I should have put that on white paper because it on vellum doesn't look as good as I was hoping on top of that matte mirror cardstock. But by the time I realized that, it was too late. I still think the card turned out really well, just not as fun as I was hoping. I cut that wire frame out of some Neenah 80-pound cardstock, the Solar White, easy peasy, and I'm putting that over my card base, which I've added that pearl luster to. I really liked the dichotomy of the pearl paper and the not pearl paper. I think it's very subtle, but also pretty impactful. So an easy way to add some visual interest that doesn't go too wild and crazy. Here I add the inside of that matte mirror cardstock that I cut out for the other card, and I'm going to put the Just Because right over that after I add on my main focal image, which was the layered stamp. So it all turned out really pretty and very soft. It's somewhat feminine, but I definitely think you could get away with giving this to a guy. I wouldn't call it masculine for sure, but I did love that it's kind of girly, but not overly girly. It's just a happy card, which are my favorite kind of cards to make. So that really covers everything that I did for those two cards. Oh, I totally forgot. I did add some of these pink sequins because I wanted to add just a little bit more interest. Typically what I do when I'm putting on sequins is I drop them from above. And kind of where they scatter, I glue them because I like the little randomness, although I do adjust it a little bit. So I wanted to let you know that I really thank you guys for sticking with me. I took a little bit of time off as trying to get the rest of my life in order, and to some extent I was successful there, but I'm really happy to be back. I'm also starting a Facebook group because for me, I do this because I like connecting with y'all. I didn't really have a whole lot of people I knew who liked paper crafting, so that's why I started making a YouTube video so I could kind of be a part of the community. But I'd like to do more with that, so I've created a Facebook group page called Paper Cut Covey. Please come and join us. We'd be so happy to have you. There's more information below about that. Here's some up-close pictures. And I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button so I know to make more content like this. If you haven't subscribed, I have some really cool videos upcoming, so definitely think about that so you don't miss anything. And have an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you guys so much. Bye.